Hello and welcome to the Met Office 10-day trend. As I record this, away from the north of Scotland, much of the UK has turned rather gloomy and damp. The sunny skies that many areas away from the south saw during Tuesday, courtesy of this high pressure, are being squeezed north as high pressure drifts ever so slightly to the east. But that high pressure will really dominate the weather during the next few days. It will often be close to the UK. It will prevent areas of low pressure from arriving. It will slow down the progress of weather fronts and so on, leading to, for many, a dry and bright weekend. But for the start of next week, low pressure is really trying to get in from the west. It's coming up against this high pressure, which will increasingly draw cold air in on its southern flank. And interesting things could happen through next week because of that. More on that in a moment. But for the time being, well, as I mentioned, high pressure to the east is slowing down weather fronts, and another weather front pushes in from the west Wednesday night into Thursday, and it really stalls there across central parts of the country during Thursday afternoon itself. So for a large part of Scotland, for Western England, Wales, damp and gloomy. But for the southeast, on Thursday afternoon, plenty of sunshine, 12 or 13 Celsius possible here, and brighter skies push into Northern Ireland, Western Scotland, West Wales and southwest England, along with a few showers, and they become more widespread across western parts of the UK during Friday, with the weather front by this stage bringing the cloud and gloom and outbreaks of rain to the east. That rain perhaps turning to snow over the higher parts of the Grampians, the Pennines, as it clears away. It's turning a bit colder by this stage on Friday, and the colder but brighter trend continues into the weekend as that front eventually starts to lose its influence. It is increasingly being squeezed on both sides by high pressure, but it will continue to bring some showers or rain to mainly northeastern parts of the UK during Saturday itself. Otherwise, high pressure close to the northwest. That's where the brightest skies will be as we start off the weekend. A frosty start here, whilst a few showers will break out further south. And we've got that thicker cloud and perhaps some more prolonged rain at times towards the northeast. And it will be turning a little bit colder. Temperatures around average. We're looking at 7, 8, 9 Celsius generally across the board after that frosty start to the day in places. A more widespread frost to start the day on Sunday, especially in the west. And again, those temperatures dipping around average or just below average. A few showers once more developing, especially across southern parts of the UK. But otherwise, there'll be some drier and brighter interludes away from those showers. The thickest cloud to the east, the brighter skies to the west. And into Monday, further showers developing in a few spots, particularly in the south. By this stage, low pressure is edging closer, and that could bring some outbreaks of rain Monday night into Tuesday for western fringes of the country and some strengthening winds. But this is where things get quite uncertain. And here's why. It's looking increasingly messy as far as the jet stream's concerned. We've got this dominant high to the east, and the jet stream really can't get around it. You can see how it splits in two. There's a branch that dives to the south, another branch that goes up over the UK, and in between these weather systems, these low pressure systems, they're not going to rattle across the UK particularly quickly because they're being stuck against that high pressure. It's a blocking area of high pressure. It's also bringing increasingly cold air in from the east. And that temperature trend, that cooling trend through the weekend and the start of next week shows up quite nicely on this temperature trend, these box and whisker charts from Birmingham. Could have picked anywhere in the UK, but the trend shows up quite nicely in Birmingham. Now, you've got the date on the bottom there going out to the next 2 weeks. You've got the temperature here, which goes up to 15 degrees at the top, -3 at the bottom, and the average line around about 8 or 9 Celsius through the middle there. And you can see each box there represents the likely temperature for each day, the maximum temperature, and there's the trend down below average by the end of the weekend and into the start of next week. Quite small boxes, but by Tuesday, Wednesday, more especially Thursday and Friday, the boxes get really big and the whiskers extend away from those boxes as well, so that we're looking at a possible spread by next Friday, anywhere between +13 and -1 Celsius for the maximum temperature in Birmingham. So what do we do with that? Do we plump for something in the middle and hope for the best? Well, actually, no, it's more likely to be something towards the top or the bottom of these boxes. And here's why. We don't just run the computer model once, we run it 50 times. We make subtle changes at the start of the forecast to see how much those changes escalate into bigger differences in the future. Sometimes they really escalate into bigger difference, sometimes they don't so much, so it gives us a measure of how uncertain the forecast is. And this is a snapshot. Each of these little squares here shows the map of the UK in the middle and the wet bulb potential temperature for next Thursday at midday. The wet bulb potential temperature is basically corresponds to the temperature, and the blues represent cold air and the greens and yellows represent milder air. And what you can just about make out if you squint is the fact that each of these model runs shows a different thing, but there are some common themes. There are some really quite cold outcomes. For example, number 5 there, number 24, number 31 shows those blues, those deep blues arriving from the east. But there are more boxes there that show greens and yellows. Number 3, number 4, number 7, more of them show mild air. This is more clearly shown on a graph which basically shows the temperature trend from each of these computer model runs. Again, out to the next 10 days there on the bottom, the temperature at 5,000 feet shown here, basically corresponding to surface temperature. The dotted line there is the temperature trend from the most recent operational, or the main computer model run from the European model. But also plotted are the temperature trends from each of those individual model runs. And what you can see is that there is a cluster that go much colder around the end of next week, following that main computer model run. But there's a bigger majority of computer model runs that go milder. And what we end up with is a slightly bimodal distribution, so 2 camps basically, one really quite cold and one much milder. And it's the milder one that at the moment is supported by more computer model runs, and as a result it looks more likely. So the most likely scenario for next week is that after it turns a bit chilly at the start, it then turns milder once again, with a return to wind and rain from the Atlantic. But as that clashes with the cold air, always the chance of a brief spell of snow on the leading edge, especially over hills around central parts of the UK. But you wouldn't discount the less likely outcome. It's still possible that it will turn even colder through next week, staying mostly dry because of the influence of high pressure to the east, but with snow flurries likely, especially around eastern and southern coasts. So that's less likely, but not impossible. And we will, of course, keep you updated. I will have more information over the next few days and into the start of next week. You can follow those updates on social media. Bye-bye.